Have you ever heard that it takes money to make money? Or that you can leverage other people's money to make yourself money? OPM, right? Think of like a rental property, right? Like this. I use a little bit of my money, and then I use a lot of the bank's money to buy this, and then I rent out the other side of it, and that pays me. So I'm using the bank's money, leveraging the bank's money to make myself money and buy something that goes up in value over time, as well as getting cash flow every month, including the depreciation and the other tax benefits associated with it. But what if you could take that same idea and apply it to crypto and utilize a mortgage and stake in, say, Pulsex and in Pulse and in HEX, and utilize the stakes in these to actually pay off your mortgage? Well, that is exactly what I am going through. I am in the process of refinancing, and I was going to use this cash to just buy another rental property. But instead of buying another rental property, when you run the numbers, why wouldn't I just buy crypto and use the crypto to pay myself, similar to cash flow from a property? Tax benefits are different and the leverage is a little bit different, but still the idea holds. And when you run the numbers, as we did, they get pretty nutty. We're going to talk about that in this video. But first, if this is your first time here, oh, what's good? My name is Sam, and for those of you who are returning, it's good to freaking see you. By the way, if you are returning, why didn't you already subscribe and press the like button? This is your second time at least, bro. Okay. Do you guys notice that the sacrifice phase ticker is down to 0, by the way? I thought that was kind of interesting. Okay, so let's get back into this. So I'm in the process of refinancing property. So I could take the money out and I could buy another rental property. And when you, this is kind of like impermanent loss. If you're providing capital on a DEX, like Uniswap, you can check out the previous video. I did an impermanent loss. But it's like an opportunity cost, right? Impermanent loss is an opportunity cost. And people like focus on it thinking it's something big, right? But it's just an opportunity cost. So it's definitely something you want to consider, but there's plenty of big opportunity costs that are like low-hanging fruit that people just waste anyway. So focus on that shit, right? Don't be concerned about wasting time on impermanent loss. Well, in this case, on the one hand, I could pull out, and hopefully these numbers are conservative. I think, ideally, I'd like to be able to pull out more than this, but say 100,000 should be relatively easy to do. So pull out $100,000. Now, I can pull out this $100,000 and I can just go buy another rental property, right? So I already have one in mind that I was going to purchase. Cash flow on the property. Well, I'd have to invest. I'd have to use some of this to buy the property, and then I'd have to invest some into the property, and it would probably take, I'd like to be optimistic and say 3 months, but given that it is like the second rental property, I'd make mistakes and it would take longer than I expected, and I run a business and other stuff, so I would expect it to, like, ideally 3 months, but in reality I'm guessing probably closer to 6 months to go through the renovations on the property and then get it all rented out and whatnot. Possibly faster than 6 months, but I don't know. Right, so on that's what would happen on that hand. Versus, and then the other benefits, right? You get tax benefits of this. You get a asset that tends to go up over time, relatively slower than crypto, right? But you do that. You also get a leveraged effect. So the leverage is able to amplify your returns. But what if you could just use that same type of leverage to go into crypto? And those are the numbers that I'm looking at, right? So this is how you could think about impermanent loss. It's like the impermanent loss is like, well, what if houses like double in value in the next 6 months or something like that? So you get a leveraged effect, and I get a 4x on my money in 4 months, right? So this turns to $400,000, right? Yeah, that would be called impermanent loss if you're thinking about this like an LP, right? You're like, oh, well, you didn't buy the house, right? You didn't hold on to HEX, and HEX went up in value, so you sold less of it when you put it into a pair against USDC, right? So I was like, I think I might find crypto more interesting. Then I don't have to be concerned about the repairs on the property. I don't have to be concerned about the renovations of the property. I don't have to be concerned about the tenants and the property manager and getting the maintenance guy over there, any of that kind of stuff. And I don't know, and I would probably be involved in it just to make sure it was done properly, and that's my time. But I could just take this into crypto. So that's what I did. So let's pull this up. This is how I'm thinking about it, right? So I did this conservatively, 5.5% to borrow this. So this is a conservative interest rate. I think it could be lower than that, but then again, with the way the the Biden administration is operating, I wouldn't be surprised if this continues to go up. In all honesty, now borrow $100,000, 5.5% interest. The additional interest and principal on my mortgage is going to be $568, right? Because I'm already paying the mortgage, I'm already paying taxes, I'm already paying insurance, right? So those are going to stay the same, but the additional P&I, principal and interest, is going to increase by $570 roughly. So when you take a look at this, I'm like, okay, I got an increase in my mortgage of $570 that I have to pay every single month. I particularly don't want to pay that, right? Like if I'm going to take $100,000 and buy another property, I don't want to buy the property if I have to fucking pay for it. I want other people to pay for my shit, right? That's how you're going to get wealthy, is getting other people to pay for shit. Like buying a rental property and having other people pay your debt off. Good proposition, right? So in this case, what I did is I took $568 times 36. So for the next 3 years, I wouldn't have to pay the bill, right? I can just put 20 grand into a bank account with auto pay every month or whenever the bill is due, and boom, I don't even have to think about it, and I'm done. And I can take 80,000 and put it into crypto. But then I was thinking about this, and I think that there's an even better way to do this. So where I don't even have to spend the $20,000 to pay the bill. So we're going to dive into that. But in this example, that would give me $80,000, right? $79,552 to put into crypto. Now, this is where the fun part comes. So we could just use HEX, right? We could put it out for 36 months, but we know that this is going to be coming out soon, and this is going to be coming out soon. But if you're not aware, there's also a site called coindix.com, and they aggregate different yield, pools, LPs, different things like that. And if you come in here, you can see that I just put in here greater than 40% and the total value locked of greater than 100 million, right? Because if you have like $100,000 of value in a pool, like the risk should be higher for that, right? So I want more than 100 million in the pool, and if I can earn more than 40%, that would be great, right? So if you look at these, there's a bunch of these here, and you can probably see above my head, right? And this is changing like regularly. But there's a bunch of them to go into, and it tells you, like, if you wanted to just do Ethereum, right, you could pick out these two right here. These two are both 54% and 43%. So to get to, and you can pick whatever network you want, AVAX, Terra, Polygon, etc., right? But the Pulsex is going to have a bunch of things on there too. I don't know. I'm not familiar 100% with this, but this also may not include Uniswaps, right? So if I went over to Uniswap, that could give me other options where I could also earn greater than 40%. So I don't think 40% is like a ridiculously aggressive number. I actually think it's more conservative. I've talked to somebody who's done LP before, and he's a tremendous amount more experienced than me, and 40 seems like a conservative number. Like somebody could relatively easily earn 40% by pooling it or doing a LP or something like that. So now, in order to get this, right? So you're like, okay, well, you have to pick the pair and do some research in advance to figure out if you're comfortable putting it into that pair. And maybe you're not going to put all $20,000 into this, right? Like maybe I'll put 5,000 into four different pairs, right? But then I still have the bill that's going to be due, right? And it's going to take a little bit of time to get to the 40%, right? Like it's not going to happen. Like I put the money in today and then tomorrow I've got 40% increase. So to take care of that, let's take 4 months worth of payments and set that aside, right? So we took, this is just the payment 468 times 4. So we put this into that bank account that just auto pays. When the bill is due every month, boom, fucking shit just auto pays. That's $2,000. What we're left with on the reserve is, we got to run through this whole example here. I tried to make it detailed so we didn't miss anything, but let me know down below if we feel that I missed something or more detail could be added in some capacity. That gives us 18,000 to earn a yield with, right? That's this number here. 40% we just went over. I think that when Pulsex comes out and Pulsechain comes out, I think that this is definitely going to be possible, but in the meantime, I could just use this, right? Assuming that like the mortgage goes through in the next 30 to 45 days-ish, right? 60 days. And during that time, if we're still waiting for these two things, I will just use CoinDex, right? So 40%, I think that's easy. Earnings would be $7,200. This is on an annual basis, right? On the total $18,000. So that on a monthly basis is $600. So every single month I'd be earning about $600 worth of yield. And maybe this I could actually get to 52%, right? There was plenty of ones like that. Then I'd be earning 788%. I'm sorry, $788, right? But let's just say it was 40. So I'm earning 606. My bill is 568. So there's a little bit extra there, which could be considered like the cash flow on a property, right? And cash flows on properties could be relatively low, right? But I'm gonna change these numbers in a minute for you. So this takes care of the payment. So we're done on this side. Now we have to do something with the cash, right? So now we have $80,000. Let's stake that in HEX. So HEX current price on Nomics this morning was that, right? So put that in here. Fees. So think about this. You have $80,000 that goes into Coinbase. You have Coin, right? So there's going to be a fee there. I think there's free if you do an ACH in there. So I would probably do an ACH or wire it in there or something. $80,000. There might be a little bit of a fee there, or depending on how I set it up, I could do that for free. Then transferring it to a MetaMask or hardware wallet, which there's going to be a fee there. If we look at Etherscan, right, the current fees are around $15, right, as of 4/17. This could obviously vary, but at this moment when I ran this analysis, this is what it was at. So I was conservative and just said that the fees for Ether were about $100. But then once you go to your wallet from Coinbase, then you got to go to the DEX, right, Uniswap or something, and they're going to charge 0.3%, right? So that's like 200 and change. So that's part of the fee. And then you got to go to hex.com or go.hex.com or something like that and stake this, right? So then there's another fee there. So that's where this $339 comes into consideration. I figured $100 worth of fees for Ether and whatnot, and then 0.003 times $80,000 is the Uniswap fee. So $350 in fees roughly. When you take out the fees from the $80,000 and given the current price of HEX, you get 615,000 coins. This in 36 months, and the calculator that I used was hexcalc.net, right? And they just give you an estimate of what it would be. This does not take into consideration I believe it doesn't, but it doesn't take into consideration the penalties when people don't do the end stakes, and if fees in Ether are very high, it could make small HEX stakes not profitable to end stake, which means that all of their earnings in their bag is going to get distributed to other people. Also, people who lose their keys, this is guaranteed to happen and is happening and will continue to happen at an increasing rate the more people get into HEX, right? And emergency end states, right? So this is not factoring all these. So this could be higher than this, the number, right? After 36 months, so this is why T equals to 36, we have 930 tokens. Right, so this is 930 hex. There's 46,000. I factored in Hedron, even though it's trivial. I don't think it's going to provide any meaningful value to this. But just for thoroughness, I decided to throw it in here. Like, even if there's 1,000x return on hex on Hedron, it's still like garbage, basically. I mean, like, very little value is provided by it. When you're talking about like these numbers here, it was more so set up by the, if you look at it, for, you know, somebody who got into HEX a long time ago, right? Like, people today are not going to get a tremendous amount of value, even if they're putting in $80,000. The amount they're going to get is like $1 worth of Hedron. Still $1, right? But still not very valuable. Now, let's take a look at these numbers. So we have today, 36 months from today, right? So this is 2025. I think it's April 2025. HEX price. Say it's exactly the same price. Say it has not gone up in a value whatsoever in the next 36 months. And we end stake that. Say, and all I did was double the fee to get in here. This includes the Uniswap fee, right? Because 36 months every single day. The reason an end stake costs more than getting into a stake is because every day when interest in HEX is calculated, it's just kind of like put into a spreadsheet, right? Like what we're using here. It's put into a spreadsheet every single day for 36 months. So you got 1,096 entries into this spreadsheet. When you need to input 1,096 pieces of data into the blockchain, it is more expensive because there's more data that needs to be put onto the blockchain versus just the one transaction putting onto the blockchain. So that's why it's more expensive. So we just assume that here there's going to be $700 to do that. And this is the current. We're assuming Hedron does not increase in price at all either. Then the HEX Hedron USD value would be $120,000. So think about this. You do this, and I'm not saying anybody should do any of the things that I talk about in these videos, right? I'm doing this for myself to put this out here to then hopefully some intelligent, thoughtful person watches this and be like, hey, did you think about this, right? And I'm like, oh, no, I didn't. Let me add that to the analysis, right? So in 3 years, you got 120 grand to pay off the mortgage, left with $20,000 profit, right? And I've been making $50, right, or $40 per month anyway, profit anyway. I've been making this profit. So in 3 years, I've got 20 grand here in the HEX stake. I've got $18,000 left over here, right? Because I've been earning 40% this entire time, right? And I mean, maybe I could actually earn 70%, perfectly possible. And then I provided myself $500 cash flow every single month, like you would with the rental property, because the rents go up over time, right? So I'm not factoring it in that, but I'm left with $40,000. So using the bank's money to make money, and then I'm able to pay off the entire mortgage, and left with 40 grand. You know, well, 40 grand is pretty, like, that doesn't seem like a lot of, right? For like an hour worth of work, or let's call it 5 hours worth of work. Or even 10 hours worth of work, $4,000 an hour. I don't know. I mean, for $4,000 worth of, for $4,000 an hour, doesn't seem like it's, you know, a terribly bad proposition. You're making $4,000 an hour. But the most important thing is that we are currently in HEX around an 80% dip. What does that mean? That there is in my opinion, there is a large positive probability that there's going to have a bullish run in the next 36 months. Do I know when? No, I don't know when it is. But what if The price just happens to get back to its peak. It just happens to get back to its peak of 56 cents. Or maybe goes to $2.56. In 36 months, look at what's happened over the last 36 months. Is it possible? Right? Well, we're like, well, that seems outlandish. Okay, cool. Let's just put it at 56 cents. Now let's consider this. The price in 36 months, assuming it has just matched its peak, 56 cents per share, per token. That gives me a value of, and you can see how trivial this is. Let's just say that Hedron has like 1,000x increase and they're worth 1 cent. Do you see how trivial that is? Like Hedron is not going to get like have the same type of response that HEX is. So like I think that Hedron's just a trivial piece of this. It's like $400 on this or something. But I did factor it in for just thoroughness. It will help pay for a portion of the fees, right? $520,000, 36 months from now, right? You didn't use any of your own money. Use the bank's money to do this, right? Like when I get the mortgage, I don't actually have to pay anything, right? They're gonna be like, okay, it's $3,700 to refinance. Okay, cool. Well, put that shit on the fucking mortgage, right? So what they do is this number here becomes $103,750, so that I don't have to pay anything out of my pocket today. Then I can use all the bank's money to make myself money. And in 36 months, if HEX is 56 cents, I've got 520 grand. 520 grand plus my $18,000 here. Right? Plus the balance over here is going to be marginally less because it's been paid on for 3 years. Not much less, but it's a smidge less, right? Maybe like $60 a month or $100 a month will be paid down. So maybe 3 grand will have been paid off of it in 3 years or something, right? Like a very trivial amount, but it's still going to be lower. And depending on how I structure this, the interest portion of the debt could be actually utilized as a write-off potentially, right? Depending on how this is structured, maybe I can structure this in a way so I could write off the interest, which would give me an effective interest rate of less than 5.5% if I'm able to write that off in a creative way. Say this is a investment vehicle, right? So put it into an entity, right, in some sort. But anyways, the point of this is these numbers get fucking stupid, right? If this is, as we said, $2.56 3 years from now, that's $2.4 million. So hypothetically, 2.56, right? $2.56. And what if I'm just earning say 60%? That means that I'm making $900 a month, so I'm making $300 profit. I could take that $300 profit and invest it into something, or I could just use that to like do something in my personal life. Just take that out and do something in my personal life, right? I could take $300 and continue to acquire more Pulse or Pulsex or HEX, right? Or I could put that towards the debt if there was like something that I thought was intelligent, right, to do. Like the numbers here are just absolutely insane. I'd love to hear what your thoughts are on these down below. If you enjoy this, let me know in the comments. Also, take a second to share this with somebody else. You know, somebody else who's interested in crypto? Take a second, share this video with them, or share them on your Facebook, right? Trying to grow the awareness around this. These numbers are absolutely insanity. I'm shocked at this, and if you're care to, I can probably create a link so that anybody else can play around with this spreadsheet if they actually care to. So I appreciate you guys. Talk to you soon. You can also check out my Twitter. There's a link down below for my Twitter. My Instagram, sam.stolt, also down below, or my other YouTube channel is down below as well, and that was related to a lot of fitness stuff. So if you want to check out any of that stuff, you can check out down below. Also, there's links down below to support in other ways if you care to support this type of stuff that I'm doing. Appreciate you guys. Oh, by the way, I think it's Easter today, 4/17. So I think it's Easter. If that's the case, happy Easter, bro. Talk to you soon. Peace.